Very well. All right. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. This is Between Two Teachers, our a special edition interview, and we will start with introductions and get right to it. My name is Consuelo Lara.
And my name is Madeline Cronenberg. And on Between Two Teachers, we always make a point of doing our land acknowledgement. So before we introduce our special guest, I want to do our land acknowledgement as we do every week. But I've lost it. So, oh no, here it is. We pause to acknowledge that we are gathered on the ancestral territory of Hui Chin, part of the unceded land of the Chochenyo and Karken speaking Muwekma Ohlone people. We remember their connection to this land and region and thank them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray on their land. And we offer our respect to their elders and to all Ohlone people, past and present. And as always, we suggest and recommend that you join the program called Justice for Muwekma, because we don't want to just acknowledge them. We want to support our Ohlone community. And the Ohlone community, the Muwekma Ohlone community, has never been acknowledged by the federal government, and it deserves to be. So if you Google Justice for Muwekma, you will find the information and how to help in the effort to get them acknowledged. And also, the other thing we always mention is that you can find accurate and current information about how to teach the history of the indigenous people of our region, and that material, the accurate and vetted material about our indigenous history, is available both on the East Bay Regional Parks District website and on the County Office of Education website.
Yes, there's a link to a land acknowledgement at the county office. Absolutely. All right.
So that was a lot to say, but I know our guest appreciates the fact that we don't want to not do our normal acknowledgement, which is really important to us. So our guest today is an incredible education leader in West Contra Costa County. And I hope all of you who are watching this understand how difficult the job of school board member is, and particularly how difficult it is to share it out and be public about what you're doing. And definitely most school board members struggle with finding a way to do that. But Miss Jamela Smith-Folds has been a superstar in getting the information out to her community, all of us in West Contra Costa, and being a champion for the children of West Contra Costa. So today I want to introduce our school board member and newly declared aspirant for the next election cycle, Ms. Trustee Jamela Smith-Folds.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. This is wonderful. I'm excited. I don't know. Do I introduce myself? You already introduced
Go
me?
ahead. Tell us what you've done in your first incredible term.
Like Trustee Cronenberg said, I am Jamela Smith-Folds. I am got elected in 2020. The first election since we were divided up into district or areas, like areas. I'm area 1. I was elected by the good citizens of Hercules, Pinole, and just a little bit of Richmond and unincorporated area. I am a mom of 3 daughters. One just recently graduated in 2023. She is off to Brown University in the next 2 weeks. And I have a 10th grader and a 5th grader, all going to schools in the Hercules area, Lupine Hills and Hercules High School. What I've done, I think, in the first term is to listen. I wanted to know, the first year was really a hard drop in year because it was COVID, it was schools were shut down. We were doing everything by Zoom, which I love Zoom. We were doing everything differently, right? So it was really a hard start over for everyone. Nothing was working as usual because usual had just stopped. There was no usual anymore. Everything was brand new. How do we do it brand new? So I was listening. How do I listen? How do I listen to the community? How do I listen to the kids' needs? How do I figure that out? So the first year was listening. There was a lot of meetings. You guys remember all the COVID meetings that then President Phillips had us doing. So it was a lot of meetings. We did more meetings the first couple of months than, you know, the entire duration of what you're supposed to do over the year, right? So the year two, we kind of, that was when the kids, so it's so hard to remember. So 2020 to 2021, we were shut down March. We shut down in March 2020. And then we didn't get elected until November 2020, right? So we were elected in the height of when this kind of the schools were shut down. And then 2021, and then we kind of got back to going back to school 2022, right? So this 2023 is, it looks normal, but it's still not normal, right? So it looks normal and we're still creating new ways of dealing with all the impact that COVID has had and will continue to have. So it's about adjusting to that. So Trustee Cronenberg, I don't know exactly how to answer that question. Year one was learning, year two was learning, year three was learning and listening, and year four would probably be learning and listening. So for me, you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? So the first thing I had to learn was what's the system, because working in the system is different from governing the system. Being a parent in the system is different from being a teacher in the system. So I was a teacher in the system, then I became a parent in the system, and then becoming a trustee in the system, all different avenues, right? All different ways of learning the language. There's different language in each one of those pathways. And what I found to be true is everybody should know everything. Everybody should know everything. It shouldn't be hidden from parents that this is the org chart in the district. It shouldn't be hidden from teachers that this is how parents have to do a transfer. Everybody should know everything. And when you do that, you strengthen the entire system. You strengthen the entire district, right? Yep. And it's the word system is funny because it is an educational system. It's an education. How do you navigate this educational system? So my goal is service at the highest level. So for me, I had to learn quickly what the governing system looks like. And it's not as easy as you thought, because you thought running, you just snap your fingers and you can make the changes. No, you got to learn how to work with people because you have to learn what's possible, what's impossible, and what they say is impossible, but it's really possible if you just think about it differently, right? So you had to kind of get all of those definitions together. And then you still have to sit and go through contracts, which has a different language. You have to go through academics, which has a different language, and school budget that has a different language, and then learn to speak that language in a way to where you can teach it to someone else and you can help someone else navigate it who's never had an idea what a school budget looks like, or what a LCFF is, or what, even the acronyms themselves is a whole tutorial. Like it's an alphabet soup. Education is an alphabet soup. Yep. So even teaching parents and community members and teachers that, hey, okay, you need to be a part of this organization. Come pull your seat up to this table, because this is where they make the decisions about the money. This is where they make the decisions about athletics. This is where they make the decisions about special ed, which is a whole different ball game, because they have a whole different set of rules that you learn about when you're a school board trustee. As a teacher, when I got my teaching degree in Alabama, we only had one small course in special ed, and they didn't even go into the legalities of it. I didn't understand special ed until I became a special ed parent. Then you learn. If you want to talk to someone that has an idea of how the educational system works, talk to a special ed parent. Yeah. They have unofficial PhDs in education because they had to learn it quickly because it's legal. The legalities of special ed and the legalities of what an IEP is and a 504 is and all of these things, it's a quick learning curve. And the district does very well in some areas educating parents. I think special ed is one. And it does very poorly in other areas where they need to educate parents. A to G credits, I think they do poorly in. I think we just don't tell parents how to help their students navigate the high school system at all. I think we throw it in there and we expect the counselors to do it when they have 2,000 students.
Right.
I mean, zero education about it.
Well, we have a huge shortage, right, for in terms of staffing, and basically across the board.
Yeah.
Right.
So what are your thoughts about this teacher shortage that we have? And it's like at a crisis level in our district compared to other districts in the county.
So I think that you go macro to micro, right? Macro level, this country has never valued teaching where it should have, because they never put the money behind it. Right. They can value it while saying that teachers are great and teachers are wonderful. And, you see all these commercials about teachers. That's valuing at one point. But if you don't put the resources behind and the money, because it's a system, systems run on money. If you don't put the money behind education, then you're just valuing in namesake only. And then you take that same concept and shrink it down to your district level. And it's the same thing. If you don't put the resources and the support behind the education, then you're just kind of saying, yay, we value you at the beginning of the year, we value at the end of the year, but we don't mess with you in the middle of the year, right? So it's one of those things, see you in May, see a teacher appreciation and you'll get like a mug, right? So it's what are we really looking at when we think about an educator, right? And this is not just teachers, but admin, teachers, our staff workers that work there, our custodians, all of the people who touch a child's educational life. Aides, what do we do? How do we value the bus drivers? What are we doing to retain and value them? Well, one, we don't know what their job really is. We think we know, but if you haven't been on a school site, and these are for all the people who make policy, if you haven't been in the school site or at a school and you just were the parent, and this is no shade to the parents who have to do this, you drop your kid off, you go to work, you pick your kid up, you buy the school supplies that they want, you attend the PTA meetings if you can, you send your kid in the uniform that they want. That's not understanding the workings of a school, right? So I think that what private schools do well is they make parents volunteer.
Yeah.
You volunteer. They have volunteer hours and you have to volunteer. And if you don't, you have to pay this enormous amount of money for not doing it. So most parents do their 15 hours or whatever it is. That gives parents a small idea what happens on campuses. If a parent really knew, I guarantee you take any parent, strongest parent in the world, the ones that has the most opinion about education, put them in a kindergarten classroom for 3 days straight. They come out with a different understanding of what teachers do, the value. Put them in a 10th grade classroom. You put them in a middle school in the springtime when all the hormones have just kicked in, and then let them say, now teach this child American government. Teach this kid American government that they're going to have to take a test on in 3 weeks because God forbid we don't give them a standardized test to figure out where they are and not just talk to them to figure out where they are. And then you tell me the value of it. So we have a teacher shortage because we have a value problem.
Yeah, and I think the parents had the parents had a little bit of taste of that when they had to teach it at home. That was just a tip of the iceberg kind of thing. So
we missed that opportunity though. If we would have taken the COVID opportunity, and if we would have really, instead of starting to, we were so bent on getting back to normal. And we had to get back to normal, instead of taking that opportunity to culture shift, to shift everything, because everything had stopped and was able to move. You could move anything at that point. We wasted that opportunity.
Yeah. Do you think that the school, the district has a plan for to meet the teacher shortage of any kind? Do you think they have a plan?
I think they have a proposal. Plans are different. Plans have start, checkpoints,
Yes.
recheck if you need to, readjust,
Right.
evaluate it, and then go through with it and then come back to it. Plans are more complex than proposals. A proposal is, we're going to fix the teacher shortage. We're going to take people from central office and we're going to drop them in there. We're going to reassign TOSAs and put them over here. Proposals create more problems. Plans are solution-minded. Plans are pathways. Plans are things that have people at the table who are experts to show you around corners. So look around corners. Well, if you do this, then this is going to happen. And if you do that, then that's going to happen. What the problem with the district is, they make promises.
Oh, yeah.
Can't make promises. Make plans. Make plans. Plans have built-in flexibility to them. Plans have built-in points of accountability. Plans have investment and investors in it, right? Plans are something you don't just go out willy-nilly with. So does the district have a plan to tackle teacher shortage? Nope. Do they have proposals? Yep. Do they make promises? Unfortunately. So to have a plan, you have to have a purpose. If your purpose is to mitigate the teacher shortage in the district, then your plan has to include retention, recruitment. Your plan has to include historical understanding of where you are. Your plan has to include current realities. And your plan has to include what if the world shuts down again? Because now you can't make a plan without having a contingency of what if the world shuts down again? What do we do? So can it have a plan? Yes. Does it need board direction to say, get a plan? Absolutely. Because that's what the board is supposed to do. The board is supposed to have this vision of the district and then give our only employee the resources and the guidance to say, get it done. And then the space for him to go to his staff and say, let's make it happen. So, but it starts at the top. As you both know, as trustees, you have to be able to give clear direction, direction. And clear direction only comes with clear accountability.
And it needs to be public. This is the thing. Once you've got the plan, you can't put a wall in front of the plan so nobody can see how it's coming.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you had a plan, the equity audit came in, and I was so impressed that actually was a plan. There were lots of steps in the equity audit, right? And that actually was done publicly. If you went back and listened to it and read it, there were many, many steps in there that we have never heard anything about.
Because you didn't have the next step in your plan, which is follow up, follow through, and the check-in, right?
Right.
So it's a plan on a shelf.
Yes.
If you go to the district and you type in strategic plans, they're there. They're just sitting on
I have them here. I have them here in on my bookshelf. I have them because I was at all those meetings and I wound up with a copy of the plan.
Right. But it just sits on a shelf. So that's, again, plans are implemented, right? So what you have now is proposals that we paid for. They're just paid for proposals.
Right.
They haven't been implemented. They're not a plan.
Right. So, I mean, that is really the key thing. And I think when you look at a board, the way you need to evaluate the effectiveness, and when you do a self-evaluation, right, just say the effectiveness is, so what actually was the outcome of our term of service? What actually happened? And in your case, you hired a new superintendent and have somebody who built a new team. Certainly you have a almost completely new team supporting him. And you've made some shifts, but in terms of allowing the public access to what the thinking is, which we used to sort of have even with facilities. We had the facility, the subcommittees, the committees of the board, where we had meetings around specific things, academic committee, the facilities committee, and people would know where to go with facilities questions and academic questions. That sort of isn't there anymore.
We found, so it's funny because it goes back to what we said, you solve a problem and you create another problem, right? So there was this idea of how do you get more engagement from your community? And then what happened was policy was put in place to take away engagement from the community, right? So what you say has to line up with the policy that you create. Now, when you both were on the board, you had where the public comment, right? You know, where the public comment came in, and then you had reports from your CBOC, and you would have reports from the parts of the district that really the unions would come in and report back to you. So you have these reports. That's no longer here. Should be here. I think, me personally, I think that should be brought back. I enjoyed that part of it because it gave the community an idea of what's happening. The really strange thing is we opened up a high level of communication through Zoom, more engagement than we have, because you don't have to go down to Dejan.
Right.
You can click on Zoom. You can do it while you're cooking dinner. You can do it while you're at a kid's soccer practice. But when we opened up this high level of communication, we also shut it down very weirdly, right? Because this could have been the time that you really open everything up, bring back those reports, right? Like now that I think under President Gonzalez-Hoy, we really have the timing of meetings down. You can really see that the meetings are not 7 hours long, 6 hours long.
Right.
The timing is really good. So you can bring back some of these things that we have because the timing is there. It's very, 15 minutes a report or 10 minutes a report, whatever they have, and they don't come all the time. Everybody doesn't have something to, the CBOC doesn't have something to report every time. The unions may not have something to report every time, but giving them that space back, I think will increase the level of accountability and communication. And I think those have to go hand in hand. So again, it's so you asked me, and I didn't verbalize it as well as I wanted to. My intentionality as a board member, hopefully as a newly elected board member in 2024, is an unreasonable level of hospitality. What does unreasonable hospitality look like? Beautiful book about it, but what does an unreasonable level of hospitality look like in this district? We have had historically call down to HR, nobody answers the phone. Right. That's not a level of hospitality that we need to do anymore. What is a unreasonable, not reasonable, we need to go further because we have to increase trust and we have to increase engagement and we have to increase investment. What in your department, you tell me was an unreasonable level of hospitality. And that's what we should be shooting for. Board, what's an unreasonable level of hospitality? Well, you're out there on school sites, you're going to events, you're making sure that you're having a way of talking to your particular community. Maybe you're doing the Saturday meetings, maybe you're doing this, whatever it is, what's your unreasonable level of hospitality? And if everybody did that, superintendent, what's your unreasonable level of hospitality? Well, we won't find you in your office. You would be on a site every single day. Right. And you do your business work or whatever you have to do, you do that at home because that's an unreasonable level of hospitality. If you are the superintendent of schools, you are out at those schools. If you are a board member, you are out in that community and you are wearing your badge and you are wearing your t-shirt that says WCCUSD and you are increasing enrollment because you are the hospitable person on the district. You're the district face. You're right. One of the faces of the district. So my intent is to create a standard of unreasonable hospitality in our district. So that's my focus.
I love that.
Yeah. When Madeline and I had different times on the board, they had something called the solutions team. And we had representatives from classified, certificated, and even board members. That I only had the opportunity to serve on it 1 year, but it was amazing. And they don't do that anymore. Well, they have what they call solutions, but they're not doing.
They're bringing back the solutions that you remember. They're bringing back the solution team that you remember. And here's the reason why. We are going to have a very hard conversation in March. And that conversation can't start in March. We have to start having that conversation now, and we should have been having it. But when we have that conversation, it can't be in silos. It has to be a unified voice coming from every place that people trust. People trust their union. People trust some members of the district. People trust principals. People trust some of the board members. People trust community leaders. right? So if we're having this conversation and all of those people are not at the table and we're not reporting back out to the greater community, then when March hits, it's going to be a punch in the stomach, and it doesn't have to be. You can have hard conversations a soft, transparent, open way and do whatever you have to do, because as a board, there are going to be things that we want to do, but we don't want to do, but we have to do. But you have to be transparent with the people who put you in that position to make that call. And that's just being honest. And I know that that's hard for the district to do because it's a system and it's so scared to be honest, but you just have to be honest.
Look, here's the thing that's always been clear to me. If you think by you not saying anything that nobody is talking about it, no, everybody's talking about it. They don't know as much as you do. They're saying other stuff. All these rumors get started. Things get all that more confused because you don't have the spirit of hospitality to share it out, right? I mean, you could say right now, we know that there's going to be a financial situation that's going to come up next year. We should start putting it on our school board meetings and explain the budget clearly to people at every board meeting, because we have the opportunity to do it. If you did a 10-minute, 15-minute clear presentation on this part, and this part, you'd get more buy-in, and you'd also get more solutions because the public gets to see it and be part of the team that do solve things, right?
And it doesn't feel like something's done to you, it's with you.
You're
That's
a
part
team.
of hospitality. The part of hospitality is don't do things to me, do things with me. Because
Right.
I really feel we knew that as teachers, right? You can't go in and just tell them what to do. You have to invite them in the learning, invite them into the ownership of the classroom, invite them in. Now, every student knew where the final decision laid. Final decision laid with the teacher. But why would we go in and say, okay, let's create our class rules together? Because you want that buy-in, you want that.
Right.
You want to know that it's part of their classroom. They get to set, and that's the same thing with it's the same concept, right? It's that concept of managing, but not dictating. It's that concept of investing in the district and investing in your school sites and investing in the betterment for your children, but it's also doing it with a level of education. These are the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Right. So the problem is when labor thinks there's one number and the district is using another number, and then both create a narrative that they run out with, then you have community members like, I don't trust neither one of y'all. Like, I don't know what to believe.
So there's no reason that the number story can't be agreed on in public now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we have the CBO to do it, because one of the things that we need to recognize in this district, trust is very hard to have, because historically things have just been a hot mess warmed over twice.
Right. Promises were not kept. Promises were made and promises were not kept.
And that creates a sunburn reaction. Don't touch me, I'm sunburned. I don't believe you. You don't have any healing balm to it. You're just going to be doing this, right? And here's the other thing. People in this district have longevity. Because they'll say, no, they said that same thing 20 years ago.
Yep.
They said that thing 15 years ago. No, when they got that last bond, they didn't do this. No, look at our school. Our school still didn't rebuild. And they said it was going to be rebuilt in 1982. So you have this kind of historical thing that you're fighting, because people not only live here, they worked here, they sent their kids here, they have their grandkids here, they know. So if you're saying that they don't know, you're fooling yourself. So what you have to do is be honest with everybody. We know that we have messed up with these numbers. We know that historically labor has had one number and the district has had another number, but we are choosing unreasonable hospitality. So here are the numbers. Look at the room. Everybody's, and that's what we did with the budget contract committee. Right. Y'all, the budget contract committee before, when you had to make these hard decisions. So now we're bringing the budget contract committee back and saying, okay, look, everybody, here, this your union leadership sitting here, and the district and the school board, we're all sitting at one table and we're all making a decision. That contract is not necessary now. Doesn't mean it's not a good contract, doesn't mean that it wouldn't benefit students, but we don't have 50 grand. So we got to figure something else out. So that part of having those type of conversations are what we need to continue and not run away from when it gets hard. It's going to get hard, but we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's the weirdest thing to me, like being in this level of policy making, how people don't know that you're supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to have uncomfortable conversations. You're supposed to push each other in a way to get the best results. You're supposed to bring other viewpoints in. You're not supposed to sit around a table where everybody says yes to the same thing. That does nothing. You're supposed to have a little bit of pushback here, because then it brings the best out of both parties and everybody. So I want to sit at a table with my enemy, because then at the end of it, it becomes my frenemy. Okay, listen, I'm not gonna have coffee with you, but we both agree that these kids need scowls, right? So that's a healthy board. It's a healthy district to me. It's a healthy community to me, if you can have all of that type of engagement.
I have a question.
It'll make the difference as to what having those conversations right now will eliminate the kind of conversation you're otherwise going to have when you just drop it in March, right? And if you don't do it, you know what will happen in March. So it just doesn't make sense not to have them now.
Right. Okay, I have a specific question about teacher housing. There's a lot of different layers and facets to the teacher shortage. So I just want to talk about just one. And how do we promote teacher housing or education workforce housing in our district? So I was just wondering about your thoughts on that.
I think you promote it the way you guys have been promoting it, because you become experts in the field. And then you invite other people to become experts in the field and have that conversation. And I think you need to have conversations with people who say it absolutely will not work. There are people out there that say this is not going to happen. It can't happen. We're not seeing it. It's never worked anywhere else. Wherever those people are, they need to be in the same room as the people who say this is the best thing since sliced bread. If you do this, this is a panacea. It will solve every problem. You put those two groups in a room, what you're going to create is the people who actually do the work, which are the ones in the middle. Extremists do not create solutions. They just highlight problems. The solutions are found with those people that can take a little bit over here and a little bit over here. And then like, okay, now let's move. Everybody over here is not going to be happy. Everybody over here is not going to be happy, but this is going to function. This is what's going to work. So let's get to what works. But I think that what you're creating now is dialogue. So you create dialogue, then you create education, right? And then you have those opposing views come in, and then you create what will actually work. What will actually work? And what does it look like? And it may not look this big thing. It may look like something very small, but something very small that works. Listen, if we want to be able to put teachers in houses and educators in houses because we want to retain them in the community. We also want to give them a proper pay to where they can be themselves, right? So they can do it themselves. And before we can get to there or get to here, what does a stipend look like? What does a housing stipend look like for teachers in our district? Those who are saying, I'm committed to staying in this city, in this community, doing this work for X amount of years, right? What does that look like? If we don't start thinking outside of the boxes that we created, we will never be able to push the system forward. We just have to start thinking out of the boxes that we created. We created these boxes. Listen, there was a time that if you had a teacher in the family, and someone who worked at the post office, right? 2 government jobs.
Right.
They could buy a home, a car, go on vacation, and send their children to college. They were able to do that because those salaries were competitive with what it costs to live the American dream. Now, if you have a teacher and someone who works in another government agency, the teacher will have to have at least 2 jobs outside of teaching. That's a side hustle. That's something that they do during the summertime and on winter breaks and all of those other things just to maintain. And if they have children that are not housed in the school system and they have to pay for aftercare, before care, or during the daycare, you have just cut her ability or his ability to own a home. You just cut it. It's impossible to own a home. But the other thing that we have to understand is the fact that when we talked about 2 seconds ago about if you were a teacher and your husband or wife worked at the post office, that you could have all of those little American dream things, you also had joy and longevity of life.
Right.
Now you can work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, still never be able to go on vacation. And when you do, you're still too stressed out to have fun or enjoy yourself or do any of the things that going on vacation, has, right? So it's what is the quality of life? The other thing, it's the social emotional part that we all discovered in COVID, right? Somehow everyone discovered in COVID that people are stressed out, that it's hard when you don't have food security, housing security, health security, just being able to go out and know you can go to the grocery store and not come back home with something that may injure your 97-year-old mother who lives with you, right? The stress of all of that. We still haven't taken that and really incorporated into the education system. We do a lot of buzzwords about social emotional, but we don't do a lot of actual social emotional work. What the district is doing is they're piloting a program with a couple of schools, and I can't tell you the name of the program because I forgot, but they're piloting a program to where they're focused on teachers' social emotional well-being. And they have these people coming in and little mini lessons, and I will make sure that I'll give you guys the update when we get an update about it. But they're tracking teachers at these couple of schools. And they're saying, what does it look like when we intentionally focus on teachers' mental and emotional, spiritual, and social health? How does that delay burnout? Because we know burnout exists. If you ask a teacher now, they tell you, I feel like it's May 23rd and it is August 16th. School just started, right. But they feel like it's sometime in May. And you used to not get that feeling to March as a teacher. It was March where it was like a little bit of burnout. Now they're getting that in August, September, and October. And by the time our students, educators hit March, April, May, they're done. They're done. So what does that look like? So again, unreasonable hospitality. What does it look like when you bring a bagel and some donuts to a teacher's lounge? How does that increase the hospitality level at that school? Well, you got to track it and you got to ask people.
You have been wonderful. I really appreciate everything that you shared with us today. And unreasonable hospitality is absolutely the takeaway, right? Yeah. And honestly, your suggestion of making sure that as we work together to try to work on education, housing, you are absolutely right. What we have to do is keep everything fair. Right. So it's the same thing as when I'll give you an example. When I was teaching, the opportunity to get, if you didn't need healthcare because you had healthcare through a spouse, you would get something to make up for the fact that you would get a stipend to make up for the fact that you are not using that benefit from the district, right? To make you whole. So whatever we do, everyone absolutely must be made whole. I think that's an absolute important goal for any effort that we make. But I so appreciate you. We so endorse you. I know Trustee Laura is right here with me.
Absolutely.
We appreciate everything you're doing. We're going to have you come back and we'll talk some more because you have so much to share, and we really hope to see you again soon and wish you the happiest of New Year's, and your daughter the happiest year ever in Brown. You are going to love Brown. I know Brown University is lucky to have your family, and I know she's going to love it. Let me close here and say to everyone, thank you, Ms. Trustee Smith Folds. And this is it for Between Two Teachers for this week. I'm going to stop the recording right now. Bye-bye. Everybody, you don't have to leave.